Pride and Prejudice, Chapter 1. It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife. In want of a wife, of course, must be wanting, okay, a wife, must be wishing to have a wife. Okay, of course we have to think about that, right? So it's universally acknowledged, so everybody acknowledges that a man in possession of a good fortune wants a wife. What about a man who doesn't have a possession of a good fortune, you know? And is it really? You know, so what do you think? And then of course we have to start realizing that the narrator is at many times very sarcastic, right? Ironic, at least. And well, let's see where does this vision come from. Remember, something we have to decide when you're reading a book is who is speaking. Okay, the narrator is speaking, or the first person. That's a nice start, right? But then, is the narrator speaking from his mind, from his intellectual world, or is the narrator speaking through some characters, you know? Or is the narrator changing position all the time? You know, it's nice to think about where does the narrator stand. So hold that question, let's continue. However little known, different meaning for however here, I will post a video just talking about however. This however. However little known the feelings or views of such a man may be on his first entering a neighborhood. Okay, so it doesn't matter how little people know of his feelings and etc., right? However little known the feelings or views of such a man may be on his first entering a neighborhood, the truth is so well fixed in the minds of the surrounding families that he is considered, the man who entered a new village, as the rightful property of someone or other of their families. Now we got it, right? The narrator is speaking through the eyes of people who are there, okay? We'll get to know that we're talking about rural, you know, the rural area, rural England here. And if a guy moves to a place and this guy is rich, we know that this guy is the rightful property of one of their daughters, you know? It's within their right to have that guy for themselves as a husband, all right? And then we start in the middle after that introduction. Keep in mind, another thing we have to think about is the level of how close the narrator is to the story. Look, what is going to happen now? The woman, our character, one of our characters, is going to start speaking. So the narrator will kind of jump into the story. But those first two paragraphs, the narrator is, you know, just analyzing the whole society there, all right? Okay, then we have, "My dear Mr. Bennet," said his lady to him one day, "have you heard that the Netherfield Park is let at last?" Be careful, because let here has a very different meaning from the usual. It means rented, okay? So, have you heard that Netherfield Park is let at last? Mr. Bennet replied that he had not. "But it is," returned she, "for Mrs. Long has just been here, and she told me all about it." Mr. Bennet made no answer. "Do not you want to know who has taken it?" cried his wife impatiently. you want to tell me, and I have no objection to hearing it. This was enough. Okay, let's go by parts. Be careful, because when we talk about cry in books, most of the time, for example in Jane Austen, we're not talking about actually crying, right? Maybe the book is going to use weep, W-E-E-P, for that. Cry is to speak with a lot of excitement, alright? I think I had one more observation. Nope. Okay. This was invitation enough. Take a look. We have to get used to that in Jane Austen, right? People are going to be sarcastic. No, not just sarcastic. Let me change my sentence. People are going to be very witty. You know, wit is a word I would like you to acquire. You know, to keep to yourself. When you are witty, you have a lot of wit. You are very fast thinking. Mainly to be funny or say something, you know, smart that people will look and say, huh. You know, stand-up comedians are very witty. You know, they look at the crowd there and they look at a guy and then they can think of a joke right away. Or somebody says something to them and then they can say something right away. Okay, so people are very witty here, or at least some of the characters here in Jane Austen are witty. Others are pretty dumb, you know. So it's very nice for us to try to get those wisecracks. You know, wisecrack is when you say something witty, right? Like a funny remark. Take a look. The wife says, "Do not you want to know?" Another way to say "don't you want," right? "Do not you want to know who has taken it?" cried his wife impatiently. And then the guy said, "You want to tell me, and I have no objection to hearing it." In other words, I actually don't want to hear, but you want to tell me? I have no objections. This was enough invitation, the narrator again. "Why, my dear, you must know. Mrs. Long says the Netherfield is taken by a young man of large fortune from the north of England, that he came down on Monday in a chaise and four to see the place, and was so much delighted with it that he agreed with Mr. Morris immediately." Okay, let's go by parts. The narrator will not tell us, look, there was a guy who had a property. This property was called the Netherfield, and this guy was called Mr. Morris, and he talked, you know, so all of those things are there as a given. Okay? Well, but that's the point, right? Mr. Morris probably is the owner of the property, and he wanted to rent it, and this new guy, this rich young man, took it. Chaise and four is a kind of chariot, you know, a kind of cart pulled by horses. There is a video here just about chaise and four. Okay, fortune, England, but down Monday. Okay, immediately. Continuing, the wife speaking, right? That he is to take possession before Michaelmas. Michaelmas is 29th of September, if I'm not wrong. There is a video specifically about Michaelmas. I talk about the etymology of this day, and I connect it with Christmas. Again, it's in the description. Those videos are optional, by the way, but I recommend that you watch them when you can. That he is to take possession, so he is supposed to take possession before Michaelmas. And some of his servants are to be in the house by the end of next week. "What is his name?" the husband asks. "Bingley." "Is he married or single?" "Oh, single, my dear, to be sure. A single man of large fortune. 4,000 or 5,000 a year. What a fine thing for our girls." Keep in mind, when it's common for or it was common at least for people like that, to measure their fortunes in, they would have a kind of annual salary, right? Sometimes given to them by the family, sometimes by the profits of property and things like that. 5,000. What a fine thing for our girls. How so? How can it affect them? The husband asked. My dear Mr. Bennet, replied his wife, how can you be so tiresome? Tiresome is like boring, You must know that I'm thinking of his marrying one of them. Is that his design in settling here? Design? Nonsense. How can you talk so? But it is very likely that he may fall in love with one of them. And therefore you must visit him as soon as he comes. I see no occasion for that. You and the girls may go, or you may send them by themselves, which perhaps will be still better, for as you are as handsome as any of them, Mr. Bingley, might be you the best of the party. Sorry, might like you the best of the party. Again, he's being ironic, right? He says, look, you should go there by yourselves, or even better, just send the girls there, because for as you are as handsome as any of them, you are as handsome as any of the daughters. Mr. Bingley, the rich guy who is visiting, might like you the best of the party, of the group, right? And then of course we'll find out that he's being ironic again. He's making fun of his own wife because she has, adult daughters, and the guy doesn't look like the best romantic husband. So he is not flattering his wife, I'm sorry to say that. He is just making fun of her. Is like, be careful, don't go there, because the guy will want to marry you instead of our daughters, because you are so beautiful. My dear, you flatter me. I certainly have had my share of beauty, but I do not pretend to be anything extraordinary now. When a woman has 5 grown-up daughters, she ought to think of her own beauty. Give over is like give up, right? She will stop thinking of her own beauty. Unfortunately, as the book will say, she's not so smart, all right? And the husband is very witty. So that means that when he's making fun of her, she will take it as literal, and and then it won't affect her. There won't be any effect, the irony there, right? So I would like, if you have the time, to tell me, what do you think about a relationship like that? Isn't there anything they should do? I don't know, at least the husband, right? At least Mr. Bennet, to improve the situation, or life for him is like that. What do you think? So remember, give over is like give up. So because she's saying, yes, you flatter me, thank you very much. I know I am very beautiful. In the past I was much more beautiful than this. But once you get older, you have to give up these ideas of thinking about your own beauty, right? Because you have to think about your daughters. In such case, a woman has not often much beauty to think of. This is what the husband answers, right? Think about that before you go to the next video and get my explanation. What do you think it means? In such cases, a woman has not often much beauty to think of. said the husband.